But I was a very strong kid, and I had a very positive school experience until high school, which was not positive at all.
So, guys, today we have Emilia with us. She's from Spain, and by profession, she's been an English teacher, and she has been teaching kids for the last 19 years.
That's right.
So, Emilia, why don't you tell us about something about yourself so that we get to know you a little better?
Okay, gladly, and thank you for the invite. I'm very happy to be here. Okay, so I was born in Romania a very long time ago. I'm not going to tell you how many years, okay? And at that time, my country was a communist country, which didn't affect my childhood at all. I was not deprived or anything. And I had a very happy childhood. I lived in a very small house. So that taught me to be humble and not to feel entitled. I think that's really beneficial. Um, then, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
You can hear me. Lovely. Okay. Um, and then school was great. I started reading, as in becoming an avid reader at the age of 8. And then I wrote a bit of poetry, and I really loved words. And that's when I started wearing glasses as well, unfortunately. I was one of the 2 kids in my school who did that, so you can imagine. Um, but I was a very strong kid, and I had a very positive school experience until high school, which was not positive at all. Okay. I felt like an alien in a shallow world that kept talking about soap opera, which I was not interested in. And I kept reading and studying a lot, despite being called a geek and all that. And I graduated valedictorian uh, because, like I said, I just simply loved studying. It was nothing else, really. Not that I was a very social person, okay? University was just as good. Actually, university was the best time of my life because I regained the self-confidence I lost in high school. It took me a lot of magna cum laude to do that, okay? And then I became a teacher. Well, I started teaching when I was very young, like 20, so before graduating. And I absolutely love my job. I love working with kids. I started working in a state school. That was the best year of my life, honestly. At that time, everybody kept telling me how bad it was to work in the suburbs. And those kids were wonderful. They just needed somebody to listen to them. And here I am. I've been teaching for 19 years. Some of them in Romania and some of them here, most of them here. Um, and I'm very happy doing what I do, really. I mean, I love my job, I love working with kids, and hopefully touching lives like you guys at Special Pride want to. I'm very open, I'm a very good listener, so I would say that if you do that, you can teach anything and anyone. You don't have to be a teacher, really. And my son was born 6 years ago, and that kind of divides my life. And I think this is valid for most parents between before the kid and after the kid. You know, the same way you have you have a before Christ and AD. You know, it's basically the same. My life changed so much. I used to be such a perfectionist, never happy with what I did, always wanting more, overachieving. You know, needing the reassurance. And then my son came along and he taught me the best lesson that there is no time to waste. You can plan something very quickly, you can still do a good job, and you can still have your priorities in order. So if he were awake, I would thank him right now, but he's sleeping. He goes to bed very early, and he's an amazing kid. So it's been a very joyous ride, you know.
Indeed, indeed.
Mhm.
So, Amelia, before we get started, since you're a teacher, right? So, how has been the entire transition from an offline world where you would have been teaching kids to getting on a complete online thing wherein all you see is a tab or maybe a laptop and you're talking to kids? How did the experience feel different?
Okay, so you know we live in a multitasking world and society where you need to do at least 3 things at a time. Okay. In class, what you usually do is basically not just teaching. Okay, first listening, paying attention to every single kid, paying attention to body language. Now, that body language does not exist in online classes. You can barely see their faces if they know how to do that. Sometimes they cannot see you or hear you, so you become an IT expert, which I am not. You should see my phone. and uh, and the kids don't like it. So I always get feedback, and I tell them, "How do you feel about this?" And they said, "No, I don't like it." There are even kids who decided not to join the online classes because I imagine that their parents are they kind of understand that this is not exactly the right language experience, and it gets frustrating when you cannot get the kids into groups to work on stuff, and somebody cannot hear you, and the class drags on because you're still waiting to have that, well, to get that problem fixed. Um, it's still nice, and I've been giving a lot of encouragement because I can see sad faces, and kids here have been quarantined for 2.5 months. And when it comes to young kids, that's a bit easier. But when it comes to teenagers, they've been actually in confinement for a lot longer because they're not allowed to leave their homes like between certain times of the day. They have exams online, and it must be really, really hard for them. So yeah, I want to go back to face to face. I really do, and it's just because I imagine I've got ADHD diagnosed or undiagnosed, it doesn't matter. I'm really active, and I find it really hard to sit on a dining room chair for 4 hours almost in a row when my feet cannot literally stop. Okay, so I usually try and basically sketch something on paper, or just basically run on the spot because it's really hard for me to sit still. And in class, when you're in class, in a physical classroom, you walk around. I don't sit in class, okay? I walk around and I talk to people and I interact. It's different. And I miss that. And I miss being up on my feet, you know? We did yoga once. It really helped. They loved it. It was really hard to like match a screen with like what they were supposed to do and everything, but they really appreciated it because it was different, and they managed to stand, because kids can't sit still. That's called stimming. They need to move. It's impossible for kids to sit still. So this must be a lot harder for them than it is for us, you know.
Indeed,
Very
indeed.
impatient.
So I can pretty much relate to that. So I'm here in India, and I'm in Delhi. It's huge crowded, right? The traffic is crazy in here. And I've started missing the traffic now because the roads are so empty that now I miss traffic. I'm like, I wish those days could really come back, wherein
Yeah.
everything gets normal. I have traffic back on the road and things like that. So yeah, I miss traffic now.
Yeah, I can see people saying that they miss movement too. Yeah, I totally relate. Yes, I know. Just hang in there, okay? Somebody said, yeah, there's this fitness video where you can actually walk, I don't know, 1 kilometer or whatever, 1 mile on the spot. No, no, it's not the same. Come on. I mean, that it's so boring. I just get bored. I can do it just sitting here, and it's not the same. It's impossible. It's not the same. And I do my exercise. And I hope you guys do too, your yoga and your Pilates or whatever it is that really gets you going, because we really need it. We really need this, to keep moving, especially if we're very active people who are like, it's 9 o'clock here, PM, and I'm still 100%.
So, Amelia, can you tell us about when your kid was diagnosed, or what was the problem? Because you have talked about the fact that, I mean, you were trying to get him diagnosed, and people were not willing to diagnose him, right? So, can you tell us a little bit more about that, the entire experience? How did that really take place? What were the learnings? I mean, whatever that you may have with respect to that.
Okay, so the good thing about being a teacher, but also about being a mom, is that you've got a sixth sense. Okay, there is this instinct that tells you when something is not wrong. It's not wrong, but not different. I don't know how to say. When something kind of draws your attention and worries you because you're not really sure what it is, So this started before my son was 2, and I took him to a play group activity on Saturdays, and he was just going from one toy to another and not even paying attention to the human beings around him. But before that, and again, he was not 2 yet. I just remember what really stays like vivid in my memory is when the dad would come home and my son would not even turn to look at him when he said hello. And we at first we thought he was deaf. I said maybe he's got some hearing problems. So we had that checked, and it's true that he had like some breathing difficulties and he got operated on, but it was not related to that. It was basically not really like interacting with people, not looking at your face, although his eye contact is really good because you practice. So it's a lot of practice where you do A, B, you ask, and the baby reacts. So you practice a lot, and there were times when this happened. And I kept telling the pediatrician about all these signs, and I said, "This is not okay." And he was echoing my question, my sentences, for example, "Hello, how are you?" And he would say, "Hello, how are you?" He would not reply, even though he knew what the reply was, because you had that practiced a lot, which is what you do with babies. You're not aware of it. You're not conscious. You don't know you're doing it. You just do it automatically or unconsciously. So I kept telling the pediatrician there's something wrong, and she kept saying, his eye contact is perfect. He smiles back. He reacts to things. So I don't see the problem. I don't see anything wrong. So the moment, before that, so before school, there was also something that he kept banging his head on the floor, which I think was, or on the walls, which I think was a response to uh, um, a way of coping with frustration when we wouldn't understand what he wanted from us. So I kept talking about this, and everybody said, it's okay, no problem, no problem. But I had this doubt in me, and I didn't read anything. I just kept going back until school happened. And when school happened, and my son was really aggressive, and he kept hitting everyone blamed it on language. Okay, so let me explain this. My son's first language is English. Okay, so that's what I've been speaking to him since he was almost born, because at first I tried Romanian and it was just not, I was not feeling it. So I went back to English, which is my life right now. And it was blamed on language, but I am a language expert. I'm sorry, maybe I'm not very modest, okay, because I've read a lot and I've done a lot of research. And I said, it's not language. This goes in like way beyond language. It's not Spanish. It's true that his Spanish was not perfect and that it was like a second language at the time. It was not the problem, definitely. It was just, he was just isolating himself, not playing with anyone. And it was heartbreaking because all I got from school was like a lot of negative feedback, which hurt a lot because I didn't know what to do. And I asked for, so in Spanish schools, in the Spanish system, the public one, I mean, so the public as in states, yeah, not the private system. If there is a certain difficulty in class with a certain child, or a child has certain difficulty, what you do is ask, so the teacher, the tutor, usually asks for a special evaluation coming from the school psychologist. And I asked for that, and I was actually told that it was not possible because the team was very busy. So I kept insisting, but that year it simply did not happen. The word autism was used, which was very frustrating. I mean, you do not give me the right to access that evaluation, which is not a very nice process for a kid, but still, I asked for it. And only 1 year later, when we had another teacher, did that happen. Okay, so that teacher said, yes, I can see that. And my son got evaluated by the school psychologist. And the first diagnosis we got was developmental delay. Okay, which is, I want to call it a very comfortable field, okay, because people don't really know exactly what the issue is, and they prefer to call it something that general because they don't want them to be blamed for diagnosing things wrong. And from there is a certain bureaucratic or red tape way, which is quite long, okay? So here in Spain, basically, you go to a public team of psychologists. It takes a long time to get there. And you go, and in 20 to 40 minutes, your kid does a test, and then they've got Asperger's. But then in papers, that was not Asperger's, it was developmental delay again. So it was really frustrating. You tell me one thing to my face, and then you write another one, and it's really hard then to read about it, to get informed, to ask for information, because it's such, developmental delay is such a wide field. It can go in so many directions. So that's really unfair, because you feel really helpless. But what happened after that is that the parents at my son's school, who have got kids with additional educational needs, helped me and sent me to this association, and they provided all the information about this. So basically, we saw a neurologist who said, "Oh, your child is gifted. There's nothing wrong with your child. Okay, thank you very much," because he spoke 3 languages. Okay, but then she said, "I will send you to a psychiatrist," and then she didn't do it. So we were back to where we started. Okay, and instead of making the trip shorter and easier, we were back to square one. But I'm a fighter, okay? I've been in a lot of conflicts and hard situations. So what I did was go back to the pediatrician, go to the local psychiatrist, who would then get in touch with a team that is in charge of very complex and very difficult diagnosis cases of autism. And finally we got there. It took us about a year. So if you are in the same situation, hang in there, fight your fight. I know it's not easy, but it can be done, okay? You just need to be the most annoying person in the world, honestly, because otherwise nobody will listen to you. The kinder, the sweeter, the more resilient person you are, the worse or the harder it will get for you. You just need to fight for it, because there's no other way. And we got there, and my son got diagnosed with ADHD and mild autism. And that's how we knew what to address, because otherwise you don't really know which way to go. And it's been a year since my son has been, well, 2 years actually, almost 2 years since my son has been in therapy, because the therapy started when he got diagnosed by his school, okay? Everything else came later. So the therapy started then. And the wonderful thing is that if you know anyone who's in a similar situation, that's the best person to be around, because they will really support you and understand you, because understanding this is not easy. People don't know anything about this. They have no clue what autism is. Somebody said, "Is that Down syndrome?" I said, if it's called Down syndrome, it's Down syndrome. It's not autism, you know? They are called different names because they are different things. So that you kind of understand the level of misinformation or lack of information in our society, really. Yeah. So,
Amelia, every mother is a fighter, right? Every mother that I speak with essentially is a fighter. So last time I was speaking with some guest, and she also had the same story to tell, wherein no one was listening to her. It took her almost a couple of years to get the diagnosis done, and then the kid was diagnosed with autism, and then she kept that fight. She kept going on, and she fought for everything possible under the sky, right? So I certainly appreciate that. I mean, every mother of a kid with special need is doing incredible job in helping the kid and in ensuring that they get whatever best is out there. So I salute, I respect that, the fighter gesture in every mother. So
we've got the power. Okay.
So, I mean, there are 2 questions, quick questions. So, say the diagnosis will have taken place 1 year in advance instead of getting delayed by 1 year. What difference that would have made? So, what do you think the difference that would have made?
It would have made a world of difference, because we didn't know how to approach certain behaviors, especially aggressive behavior. We didn't know what was going on, and it was really heartbreaking as a teacher, especially as a teacher for me, because I've helped so many kids in my career, and I was unable to help my son because I didn't honestly know what to do. So obviously, if my son had got diagnosed at the age of 4, that would have saved so much time. As in, it would have, first of all, what it would have done for him in particular, it would have eliminated the stigma that he got attached to his own, like the labels attached to him. So he's still considered to be the naughtiest kid in class. He's considered to be bad and aggressive, that he hits everyone and so on, because that image has been created in 3 years of school. And nobody understood that. The teachers didn't understand that. It, I did my work there too, no worries, but it was very frustrating to see how much can be misunderstood and misinterpreted, uh, and how a kid doesn't get the support, the emotional support that he deserves. And any kid, not just a kid with special needs, deserves emotional support. Nobody is bad by nature, please. This has to go away. There is no kid who's bad by nature. No kid is born evil. This is something that people need to understand. But I think that when you deal with so many kids, when you have a set way of doing things, maybe as a professional, it's hard to open to complex situations. So I think that would have benefited him a lot more, and we would have also known what to do. I mean, we kind of learned from experience as well on the way, how to deal with aggression, and with responses, and with his violence, coming from simply not understanding what was going on, not understanding a gesture, a joke, and other factors. Although he does know when he's laughed at, he does know, and then what comes after that, oh my god. So he kind of fends for himself, but it would have definitely helped there. And that's the biggest social impact that a lack of diagnosis has had on his life so far. And it's not fair, because he's a kid and nobody deserves to be treated and mistreated like that. I mean, mistreated in the sense that people don't know what's going on, and they just see what they see, because what we see is what we get. As a kid, I'm not blaming kids for this, but yeah, it's the way it is. And sometimes I think I often think that this would have taken so much longer if I hadn't noticed this, because a lot of parents don't. But one piece of advice I can give any parent is that if you feel that there's something unusual, something that worries you in your child's behavior, you do need to act on it. And if you're paranoid, this is another label, then just be paranoid. Who cares? It doesn't matter. But at least act on it. Maybe there is something there that you didn't know about, and you don't want to get to the age of 12 with that. A kid can get up to the age of 12 or 16 with no diagnosis and with a lot of trauma, and that's just not fair. So you feel there's something there that you need to act on, just do it. Whether it's a special need or something else. I mean, like you're saying, mothers have this instinct. The parents in general also notice things. Dads notice that too, because they also bond with their kids, and it may be different or not. I don't know, because I'm not a dad. But they feel that too. So whatever you feel, just act on it. That's my piece of advice.
I 100% agree. I 100% agree on that. Uh, every kid deserves certain level of empathy, irrespective of anything else. And if awareness is more, if people are more aware of that, the cases would get diagnosed a little faster, and it would eventually help everyone. So that's the objective. That's what I'm trying to do. That's what you are trying to do. We are trying to create certain level of awareness, so that the problem. I mean, there is more awareness, and if there is more awareness, things would happen a little faster. There would be they would be more empathetic towards everyone. They would at least understand what it is all about. And yes, certainly that will help the situation, the entire thing. So Amelia, one thing. So when your kid was diagnosed with ADHD and mild autism, how did that affect your life? So you have been someone who has been overachiever all your life. All of a sudden, when that happened, did that really change your life or your perspective to life?
Um, if you used to watch The Simpsons, you know that when Bart Simpson eats some poisonous fish, he goes through the stages. He goes to denial. No, that's not. No, 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 no. That's not possible. These guys are they're just crazy. You go through denial. You finally go through acceptance, and apparently people think there is a mourning stage. To be honest with you, I was relieved personally because I said, finally, somebody is helping us. So now that we have this, we know that we can get the support and the understanding. Yeah, that's a longer story, but the support that we need, and that for me was a big relief. For my husband, I think it was really traumatic. And it's really hard to understand why these things are happening when neither of us have been diagnosed like ever with anything like that. So we know he's genetic, okay, and now we kind of see it why he's genetic. We're both academics, like deep into our own fields of interest and so on. As for friends and family, friends are very supportive, but we don't have close friends here. Okay, we don't have family here either, because my parents, have gone back to Romania. But my parents were in a very big denial stage at the beginning, and it was really really painful. My brother, if he's around, my brother has been my biggest support. And we didn't used to be so close, to be honest, because he's a lot older than me. But he's been my support through all this, and I am so lucky to have such a wonderful brother to go to and to speak to. And I've also become part of a big family of parents of kids with special needs. Uh, we have this pending big picnic in the park with our kids to celebrate the end of the quarantine and not to get the coronavirus, I hope. Um, and also this community, and my son's school has been amazing about this. They've been so supportive. They've even called us during the quarantine, and my son can speak to his teacher sometimes, which he loves because he's a tech guy already. So yeah, it was really hard because as a teacher I have a way of doing things with kids, and it's obviously based on a lot of experience. And my husband used to be a teacher too, but now he works in administration here, so he doesn't work with kids. And our approaches to education and to upbringing are slightly different, but we've managed to meet on the way and to be more consistent in the way we do things. And I think this is really really hard because there's so much to learn and there's too much information, and you've got your own job, your own life, your own timetable, and it's like trying to absorb everything at the same time, and it's such hard work. For those of you who are doing that hard work out there, well done. You're trying really hard. You may fail sometimes. I fail many times, okay, but you get back on track, and that's what matters. So do not just put yourself down over things that you don't do well, because this is all a learning process. Life is in general, and we do what we can, and we do our best, I'm sure. So it's a process. Yeah.
Indeed, salute to everyone who is in this community and has been trying their level best to give a better future to their kids. So salute to everyone in this community trying to give a better future to their kids. Amelia, I mean, this journey has been long, right? That there certainly would have been ups and downs. So what has kept you motivated all the way long?
uh, my motivation is that big smile on my son's face, but also being able to learn. To be honest, I'm a lifelong learner. Nothing has come easy to me ever. University was amazing, but I usually work twice as hard as everyone else because you look at the page, you look at the page and everything just runs away. It just slips away as if the words were liquid. So I created my own system of studying early in the morning, not at night. I'm not good at that. Okay, when it's very quiet, and I hope to pass that on to my son, my study skills, and also being able to see that. I don't know, that light in my kids' eyes and in my students' eyes when they learn something and they enjoy it and they feel the reward. Um, and also when we have like really good connection, and I can actually hear my son and he hears me. And one of the biggest motivators, when I keep telling myself, which is something that we need to stop doing, keep telling myself, why am I'm a teacher. I just don't understand how there are times when I cannot teach my son things. And then suddenly my son shows empathy, which is such a big thing and a hard thing for kids with autism to achieve. And he shows me the empathy because I show empathy in my everyday life, even to his cuddly toys. And the moment you do that, your kid kind of absorbs it, and you're not even aware of it, and he's not even aware of it. And it happens, and it really happens, and it's there. You just need to give it time and to be patient. Patience is really hard. I don't know about you, but my ADHD says that patience is really, really hard. Okay, I'm gonna switch on the light because I think it's getting really dark in here. Okay, let's hope it's gonna be fine. Can you still see me, or is it kind of dark? Can you
Yes,
see me?
we,
Okay,
we,
lovely.
we certainly can see you with slightly yellowish light.
Oh,
So
it's
yeah.
very yellow because the light is right there. Okay, so basically, yeah, I mean, that fact that the learning is happening, just give it time. It is happening even when it's not explicit. Every gesture, uh, good things. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay. The first swear word I said was picked up like that, and it's been there ever since. It's been 3 years. Okay, picked up, and I'm not a big swearer. I don't think I am. Okay. So everything happens, and when you see that thing coming up in a conversation, it is just amazing and it fills your heart with joy. But we sometimes only celebrate joy, but we should also celebrate the moments when your child opens up to you and tells you everything that happens at school, which is amazing. Also telling their teacher off right there before your eyes. You call me annoying. Why did you call me annoying? And I was like that. Oh my God, my son is fending for himself. Like, that's amazing because I'm creating and I'm giving and passing on my life skills, and that's what we need to pass on, not just academic stuff. This, for me as a teacher, this is my main pet hate about education. School is not just about doing worksheets and maths and letters and writing and holding that pencil with a pencil grip right. School is a lot about a lot more. It's about social skills. It's about teamwork. It's about a lot of other things. It took me 6 months as I was working on a project, presented at a conference. It took me 6 months to get a group of kids to work together and to hear each other and to help each other. 6 months, kids who have been together for who knows how long, so that you understand how this is going, and where it's going. So what keeps me going is this. A lot of stuff keeps me going, and I'm so glad and so grateful for everything that is happening in my life as the mom of a child with additional educational needs. There are times when I cry and times when I'm a mess like everyone else, I think. And then you pick yourself up and you move on and you learn, hopefully. And if you don't worry, we'll come back and you'll learn then. And if not, you'll learn the umpteenth time.
Indeed, the smile on your kid's face is like the single biggest motivator.
Yeah,
When you see
it
your kids smiling, when you see your kids showing empathy towards you, when you see your kids improving, right? I mean, learning the social skills, doing things right, the positive motivation, everything. It's a delight to really be a part of, and it's something that I certainly cannot explain in words. I would I would not be able to do that. I would not be able to do justice to that. So certainly that's an amazing thing to have. So, Amelia, you would have felt pressure a lot of times, right? In your entire journey, there would have been moments where you would have felt that you have broken up. You're shattered. So, how did you cope up with that? What is that you would want to tell other parents? Your secret sauce of keeping yourself intact and keep fighting that battle.
Keep going, exactly.
Keep going, keep fighting that battle.
Well, each day is 24 hours. And a lot of things happen in those 24 hours. Not much sleep for me, okay? Because I don't get it apparently. Or maybe I don't get it, yeah? And I usually have a very hard day because most of my work is in the afternoon, okay? But I also work in the morning. And I finish at 10 p.m., okay? And that has been my biggest physical problem because it's really hard to keep going when maybe you have had not just your work and everything else that needs to happen in a day, but also your son's had who knows how many meltdowns and a lot of like anger, and you're not there because you have to go to work and you cry on your way to work, okay? But hear me out. Every single day finishes, and tomorrow is a brand new day, and you start from scratch. You pick yourself up and you think, I can do this, because you can. Honestly, you can. I'm sure there are parents who would say, what is this thing that, I'm not gonna swear here, yeah, what is this thing that you're talking about? It's a mess. It's a nightmare. Yes, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that if you can find inside yourself the strength to say that to yourself in the morning in the mirror, that you can do it and you've got this, and that you'll do your best. Maybe you won't be able to, maybe it will be a bad day, who knows? But if you can do that and start fresh in the morning, that's a brand new day. And also when you go to bed, try not to go to bed upset, or maybe after fighting with your kid or with your partner, because it's just not worth it. Just make up, talk it over, give each other a hug, because it's hard. And if you're on your own, it's probably even harder. And you can give yourself a hug then. But I think that if we think that every day is a clean slate, I think it will really help us to keep going and keep fighting for it. And you just pick yourself up. There's no other option. It's not the end. It's not the apocalypse. And my mantra, honestly, is whenever something terrible happens, I ask myself, is it the apocalypse, as in with the zombies and everything, Is it really the apocalypse? Is it really the end of the world? No. Well, that's it. It's not the end of the world. Just move on, okay? It toughens you up. It really toughens you up. I used to be such a crybaby. In my 20s, I cried so much. Crying is not bad, but I cried about everything. I cried about my exams. I cried about everything, okay? And that's gone, because I have a son now, and he's made me so much tougher, So that's my life philosophy. One day at a time, pick yourself up. Every day is a clean slate. Start over. That's it.
Emilia, now let's talk about something regarding the awareness that you have in Spain. So how's the awareness with respect to special needs in Spain? So if you could just enlighten us a little bit more on that. So say between a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the awareness with respect to special needs in Spain?
To be fairly honest, I would say there's very little. I would say it's, let's not call it a 1, okay, because that's very pessimistic, but definitely a 2 or 3. There isn't much awareness. People don't know autism is not an illness. People don't know ADHD is not an illness. It is a disorder. They don't know what a disorder is. They call kids hyperactive just like that. And then you actually tell them, hey, do you know if that kid has been diagnosed? No. Well, let me tell you something. And then you explain. So you try to raise awareness. Maybe So when it comes to the educational environment, there is awareness. Awareness, that's it, not training, okay? You need special training for this. You need special training to know how to deal with the different difficulties, to understand why certain things happen. And that is not really developed. It is developed, or it is found in people who are in this area, you know, in the special needs area. But that's it. What really, really worries me is that there are so many courses out there for free. For example, on Future Learn, there is one. It's absolutely free. It's called what is it called? Introduction to Autism or something like that. It's so easy to do. It is enlightening, honestly. And I recommend it to you 100%. There are lots of books you can read, but simply wanting to open your mind, people are doing it. But again, I'm telling you that the people who are open to this and understand are usually educators. They're educators. They're in the area, in the field of education. Who's not in the field of education does not understand. They do not reject it, okay? And they accept the input. I'm not really sure how much they understand it. And for example, if their kid gets hit, I don't think they feel very positive about bringing their kid again to the playground to play with yours, okay? So I would say there's very little awareness. For example, last year, I think there was one single seminar at my child's school, and there was one, I'm giving it that, you know, one about this, that was it. That's not enough. It is not enough. There is so much more to share, so much more to talk about, so that we can create that sense of community where people understand each other and support each other rather than blame each other or run away from each other, you know? And I would say that, for example, in our case, because my son has had the same classmates for 4 years, the parents are more receptive and more understanding because they kind of know the situation, although it has not been explained to them verbally, but they kind of know, okay? However, I would say Spanish society needs a lot of input, and I would say there's as little awareness here as there is in many other places, if not worldwide. There's very little awareness. That's my conclusion, and that's okay. But people can learn, and we can pass messages on, and hopefully, this will become a world that understands differences better and accepts diversity. And because inclusion is on everybody's lips, but inclusion is really hard to do because there are so many prejudices, and it's really hard to fight them and to deconstruct them. I often do that in class with adults. Okay, so it will take a while. It will take a while. I think it started maybe a few years ago. I don't think this awareness has been developing for longer than a few years, but it's there. It's in process. Okay, so let's be optimistic.
Adding on to this particular thing, so does Spain government provide any kind of benefits, any special program, any monetary grant, anything for parents of special need kids, for kids, anything on those lines? If you could shed some light on that.
Okay, so basically, if your child is very young, then because our son was put on a list, on a waiting list too, for free therapy, but we never made it because the moment your child turns 6, that's it. The free therapy is gone. Okay, so our child turned 6 and we didn't hear from them. Then there is a social security that is related to free healthcare and everything else, offers you some money to help. Okay, it's not a lot, but it really helps with therapy because it's very expensive, and you pay for it from your own pocket. And then there are certain tax reductions, and what else is there? Sometimes, depending on your income, you can get some support with like things that you had to pay for at school. Okay, like lunch or materials. We get free materials, for instance. There's when it comes to that, there is support. It's just that there's so much demand, and I kind of understand why some kids don't make it. It's really upsetting that there are there are families that are in serious financial difficulty and they cannot afford the therapy for their kid. So they just don't do it, and they do what they can. And the school is amazing because what usually happens is that school offers support from the very first day your child is basically evaluated. When the evaluation finishes, your child already gets support, okay, in school, consisting in your child being taken out of the classroom, you know, being taken out of the classroom with other children who have got special needs, and then they work in smaller groups. And I, I became an advocate for support in class because where my son struggles is in class. And actually, this year he has that 1 hour a week where the support teacher goes to his class and stays with him, okay? Because that's where he struggles. He needs individual attention, he can't follow group instructions and so on. So there are things that are happening in general, whatever involves money, as everywhere else, I'm sure, takes a long time. Disability takes a long time. For example, if your child gets evaluated for being dependent, yeah, to like various degree. Again, you get support, but it comes 2 years after the evaluation finishes, so we're not getting there yet. Okay, so there is some support. I'm sure there is more support than in other countries, and I stopped comparing now, but I'm not unhappy about this. I think I am happy that I am where I am and that we get the support we get. It could be better, fine, but with what we have and with my experience as a teacher, I think we kind of complete each other and we work together, and that's wonderful.
So thanks, Emilia, for explaining that in detail. Now we have talked a lot about policies, what we should do, what we should not. Let's forget about the serious stuff. Let's be little happy. Let's just get into the happier mode a little bit, okay? So what has been the most happiest moment in your life so far?
There are moments of happiness. I mean, the happiest moment, I'm thinking, I made notes, okay? Because you want a moment and it's really hard to find one moment, you know?
You can tell us more of that if you want to tell us three
Yeah.
or four of them. We have all the time. We won't mind.
So I would say one of the happiest moments, because for me, my child's school life is so important because I had a good school life and then I had a bad one and I suffered, and I think I still carry that trauma inside me, you know, and I don't want my son to suffer. Uh, so September last year, when I saw my son's teacher and I met with her and we had this tutorial, and she told me wonderful things about my son which I had never heard before. That for me was honestly a very, very happy moment because I realized that I finally found somebody who understood my son and accepted him the way he was and saw the potential in him. And that is amazing because I've talked as a teacher to parents who came into the classroom thinking that they would hear only the worst about their kid with ADHD, and they didn't. And you could see the smile on their faces, and you could see how relieved they were for things. Was that you should never walk in with that fear that you will hear bad things about your kid, because that's not fair. The teacher is responsible for creating a positive environment, you know. So I was really happy, and I'm still really, really happy with the team my son is working with this year because they understand him and accept him. And he's made so much progress. And the moments when he tells me, I can do this, I don't need a reward, I can have it later, you know, that he's motivated, that he wants to do things on his own. You turn around and I'll do this on my own, but if I need help, you help me. So the way his autonomy is improving, the way he finally accepts that sometimes he's not right about things, you know, because sometimes what goes with autism is a certain rigidity. In our case, a very, very big, stubborn rigidity. So when he sees that actually something is good for him when he thought it was bad for him, for me that is an aha moment, you know. when you say, wow, I'm so glad he finally understands. Um, and there have been so many happy moments. His first steps, because when he walked, everybody thought he was a little old for that. But then when my son walked, he walked, he didn't he wasn't a toddler, he was a good walker, a confident one. And everybody was wrong, because my son walked so confidently and he hardly ever fell over. That then the moment when he started to put words into sentences, and again it was like having, in the back of my mind what everybody was saying about his language skills, that even were passed on to other kids who were friends with him. And I remember one saying in Spanish, you are messing his mind up. That's what my teacher said. I was like, I'm not messing him up, sweetie. This is really good for him. And I will explain why. And I explained, but coming from a kid and having been passed on by a teacher, oh no. So there have been so many moments of joy, really. And there are moments of joy every single day. There are also moments that are not easy, but I'll keep the moments of joy and I learn from the other ones, okay?
Emilia, what I understand is all the paintings behind you have been created by your kid, right?
I just put them here because they were in the kitchen, okay? So I will explain a bit. That my son is actually very creative. It's maybe not exactly what he does in class, but he loves painting. For example, this one, he just created what he had at home. And he loves glitter. I don't as a mom. I don't think other moms do, but it doesn't matter, and he loves working with cotton and doing his rainbows. And sometimes he just sits with a tablet. And what he does is he watches videos of crafts and he follows the instructions, which is really good for him. He doesn't know that, because then he wouldn't do it, but it's really good for him because he follows the instructions step by step and he works on them. And then he just if you can see this one, so basically this one, the picture of his family, was one of his pictures when he was, look, this one is in 2019, and that's him, and he's not really happy, see. So that was in September, because going from basically from early years to primary school was a bit of a shock. And September was a bit of a complicated month for him, but it usually is, just because he needs to adapt, and it takes him maybe a bit long to adapt. So he was not happy. We were happy, and I had long hair, as you can see. But then everything else happened, and his skills developed so much, and a lot of this has been with me there or without me there, because this is the way he relaxes. And what the quarantine has brought to us was a lot of technology, but I'm sure that once this goes back to the new normal, I think this will all come back, all the painting. He still does it, but we kind of lack the materials we need. So yeah, there's been a lot, and I wanted to show you something. Let me see how I can do it, because it's look. So basically, at school, how they need to give presentations, and my son never did, because he got like really shy and he didn't know how to word stuff, and there was so much pressure, and he wasn't saying a word. Everybody was saying, oh, he didn't say anything. Okay, thank you very much. But then what we do is we found a source of very simple pictures on a website called Arasac. It's Spanish, and it's called something called pictogramas, which I talk about a lot in my videos and in my posts if you want to have a look. And basically, what I did with my son was take photos of him building the castle, okay, and then I gave him the pictos, okay, the pictures. So I basically, you have the words here, but it means I made a castle. I used tape, a box, special paints, gel paints, and everything else. And this is like double tape and so on. So he went to school and he presented that And everybody was so impressed, and he was so proud. He was so proud. That was the first time he had actually given a presentation, and it was spectacular. Everybody said it was spectacular. He did it like for different groups around the school so that everybody could see it and praise it. And I think that really, really boosted his confidence so much. It was really hard work. I'm not saying that, but what isn't? If you're used to hard work, and I'm sure you are, maybe you don't know, but if you're used to hard work, then this will motivate you to help your child and get that confidence in the place where he or she most needs it. Because if that happens, the bond that he or she has with the classmates, with the school, and also the vibes that he or she gets from that environment will change and improve a lot. So I think it's really important that we create that esteem and that confidence for them to bring into the classroom, if there's no one else to do it for your child.
I 100% agree on that. So positive motivation, sense of belonging, an environment wherein you're welcome, right? So these are the things that actually helps kid learn better. It helps them socialize better. It helps them get them out of so they can park their worries aside, and they can feel that okay, all these people belong to me. We are a family. We are the same. So yeah, that's what it really takes. So yeah, an empathetic society would essentially be of great help, and that's what is need of the hour. So I 100% agree on that. Emilia, again on the funny side, okay, what is the most bizarre thing that has ever happened to you?
Oh, I actually had to think about that. A bizarre moment. Hmm.
Of course, in the funny
Oh,
way.
okay. Let's be positive about the bizarre thing, okay? So I don't know how you feel about dentists. I actually dread dentists. The moment that sound starts, it's like, oh my god, I start sweating. Okay, even if it doesn't hurt, it's just bad memories, from childhood and so on. My son, my son knocked on a neighbor dentist's door because he has his practice close to the playground. And the dentist opened. I said, "Hello, would you like to come in?" He went straight to the chair. Basically, he lay down and opened his mouth. It was amazing and hilarious. The doctor, the dentist, because he's got kids too, was so sweet about it. They said, "Yeah, you want me to give you a checkup? Okay, let's have a look at your teeth. Okay, your teeth are spectacular. Look at that." Then he got toothpaste and stuff, like little freebies from the dentist. And he was so impressed. Now he loves, I mean, he loved dentists anyway and loves doctors, by the way, okay, which is why I'm so lucky. but that was such a hilarious moment. It was really strange considering my own, feelings about this. Um, and another, I can share another one with you, which is also kind of hilarious. So basically, there's this question that I don't really know how to answer. Where are you from? Okay, I was born in Romania. I've been here. I've lived in Spain for what, 14 years? I can't remember. I don't really feel like I belong to a place. Maybe you can feel it in my accent that I'm not a native speaker of English, because that's what the question is usually about. If I'm a native or not a native, I am a native speaker of Romanian. Okay, so that native thing is not correctly worded. I'm telling you as a linguist. So my son was at a checkup when an English speaking mum, I think she was Scottish, came to him and say, "Good morning. Where are you from?" And my son said, "Good morning," basically imitating her accent. And the mom just shut up. It was so funny. Like, what best answer could I have? What better answer could I have given? That situation. It was amazing. I didn't laugh because the mom was like a bit, intrigued. She didn't know how to cope with that, and she just left us alone. But it was amazing. It was such a good laugh after that.